Kansas City, Missouri is about ready to make the biggest mistake that they've ever done. They're going to let the state of Kansas yank the Chiefs from them, yank the Royals from it, and it's happening. Jackson County voted it down thanks to Casey Tenants, thanks to a lot of these anti-billionaires, anti-sports teams, and pro whatever. They've stricken it down. I want to break down what Kansas as a state has done, and you can just tell whoever wants it most, whoever wants the team most, whoever realizes kind of what this can produce is going to be the one that gets it. So let's see this is breaking news. This is out of the Kansas City Business Journal, and I'm going to go through the entire article so you can see exactly what's going on. So Kansas City legislators draft a bill that tweaks the Star Bond program to help land Chiefs and Royals. The day before the Kansas legislature convenes to try to lure the Chiefs and or the Royals to the state, legislators put forth a draft bill tweaking the big incentive tool to make the effort possible. With a special session starting Tuesday in Topeka, a joint conference committee made up of members from the Senate, the House, met on Monday to discuss the draft bill aimed at landing a pro sports team. What does that tell you? It tells you that these guys are serious and they recognize that Missouri is weak, that Jackson County is weak, and they're jumping on it to steal the team. And that's what I would do if I was the state of Kansas. I'd try to rip the team out of Missouri. And if I was the state of Missouri, I'd fight for what I goddamn well have. And I wouldn't let it get away very easily. So, love to hear your comments on this. The bill would allow for temporary changes to the sales tax revenue Star Bond program to establish a major professional sports franchise, Star Bond District. Star Bonds support developments that aim to create entertainment or tourism attractions throughout the state. The bonds then are retired using incremental tax revenue from the development once the program opens. Let me break this down like you're stupid, like I was. So here's what happens. A piece of the sales tax from the alcohol, from the food, from all of that jazz goes into basically a bank account that then funds the entire project through a bond that basically is pledged that, hey, all the sales tax money that's generated from this franchise is going to go to finance that. So it's a private-public partnership aimed at taking sales tax dollars to finance the project. Everybody wins. The draft bill varies from what lawmakers pitched in April, though the conference committee took no formal action on the proposal. The most significant change would allow the Commerce Department Secretary to initiate Star Bond development projects by entering into an agreement with major pro sports franchise. Let me read between the lines. They don't need the council. They don't need anything to get the ball rolling because they've figured out a way to get the ball rolling just by having the ability to negotiate this on the table. A city or county could still initiate a Star Bond projects or joint projects the Commerce Secretary proposes by pledging a portion of local sales tax and transient guest tax revenue to pay for a portion of the bonds, said Jason Long of the Legislation's Office of the Reviser of Statute. Such projects would also require approval from the Legislative Coordinating Council, the LCC, a joint committee consisting of House and Senate members. City and county governments wishing to create the Star Bond District must hold a public hearing and pass a resolution specifying how much the local sales and transient guest tax revenue would go towards the project. However, if the Secretary initiates a Star Bond District and project, there's no requirement to get input or hold a public hearing in the community where the project district is located. Long told the committee on Monday. So basically what they're saying is they can shove it down the taxpayer's throat and they don't need anything. They already have it within Congress and they can pass it. So you vote for these people, they can make the laws. They don't need your vote on this situation. The LCC must approve the Star Bond plan before it can be executed. The Secretary would have until June 30th, 2025 to propose a Star Bond project plan to the LCC. However, the Secretary may request a one-year extension. Under the latest proposal, Star Bonds could be issued to cover as much as 70% of the total project costs, an increase from 50% threshold in the current statute. The bonds would have a 30-year maturity date, and the existing Star Bonds have a 20-year payoff period. All state sales tax revenue collected in the bond district and alcohol sales in that district would be used to pay back the original loan. Attracting professional sports to Kansas fund could also be tapped to retire bonds backing the stadium project. Under the draft bill, the Star Bond District could envelope property already covered in an existing Star Bond District, including non-contiguous land parcels and property not subject to redevelopment with Star Bond proceeds. There could be sales tax revenues that are used from that property to pay the bonds. None of the bonds proceeds proceeds are going to development of that particular parcel, Long said on Monday. Outstanding bonds in this establishment Star District would be prioritized and paid before the new bonds issued for the sports complex, he said. The number of jobs and the amount of economic development created by these facilities, the potential, an order of magnitude in the vast, we think that's important to understand. We anticipate Kansas location would have a similar economic impact. Opponents argue that the Star Bond program doesn't increase economic activity in an area, but instead redirects it. If we are spending money at businesses now, dining, retail, and so forth, that money is generating sales tax that goes into a general fund. If that money gets spent in Star Bond District, it's going to pay off debt, Kansas City Policy Institute CEO Dave Trabert said. There is a loss in state and general fund because the money wasn't going there. It got diverted. Michael Austin, legislative director at the American for Prosperity, expressed concerns about the legislature's timeline for crafting a potential incentive deal for the Chiefs and the Royals. We're having a conversation in a single day special session figuring out how we can loan out $1 billion at least of taxpayer funds to build 2 stadiums here in Kansas for most likely in the KC region, Austin said. Do we think we should probably give ourselves a little bit more time to think about it? If it took us 2 years to talk about tax relief, why are we spending one single day to give a taxpayer bailout sort of out-of-state developer? That's not fair. Chief of Staff to Governor Kelly told the committee that the governor is neutral on the bill. If this bill were to land on the governor's desk as it is, we don't have concerns over the bill. He said nothing would warrant a veto. Let me give you my thoughts about this situation that's going on right now. In business, it's about timing. If you guys are not from Kansas City, if you're not living in Kansas City, or if you haven't been to Kansas City, you don't understand the dynamic here. Is you got 2 states. You've got Missouri and you've got Kansas, okay? Missouri tends to be a low-taxed, conservative state, as does Kansas. But Kansas, if you look at it, they spend a lot of money on their infrastructure. There's more malls, it's more development, there's more stuff going on in Kansas than there is in Missouri. But in Jackson County, where the Chiefs have played, they have a great venue at Arrowhead Stadium. But let me be clear with this. You know, when you have a world-class sports team, you need a world-class facility. That facility's been around since the 1970s. This is my proposal for you, Jackson County, Clay County, Kansas City, is take your airport. The Kansas City International Airport does 2 things right now. 1, it's airports for high-paid executives. 2, it doesn't really generate any sort of commerce, income, or what have you. So get rid of that airport. It's right by the city. It's 674 acres that the city owns. So they don't got to loan any money out to buy it. They own it and they control it and they can get rid of it. And there's more than enough room to not only build the Royal Stadium, not only build the Chiefs stadiums, bring in a hockey team, a basketball team, whatever. You could do an entire sports complex. And then you could have all those people come into downtown. Because if you're downtown is not fueled by sports, then your downtown's gonna die. And rather than having these destinations, even Arrowhead Stadium's great. All it does is generate a huge tailgate party, which we can have down there, and a bunch of people gathering around because there's nothing else to do. Now imagine you have the tailgate aspect, but you also have this waterfront, because you're on the water there, right by the Missouri River. You build the biggest stadium, 120,000, 150,000 people at the stadium. Listen, you gotta think big here, and this is the time to strike. Governor Parsons, I hope you hear this message loud and clear. You control this state. 674 acres are right outside the city. The highest and best use is not for an airport. We got a brand new airport, which, you know, there could be some improvements there, but one thing that we could do to improve that is to add an executive airport right next to the old airport, right? Now you've got all your people flying into one airport. That makes more sense. Less resources, right? You're gonna misplace a few executives. Big deal. If we care about, like, making this work for everybody, couple executives are going to lose their hangar. That is not the highest and best use. It takes away the restriction for building Kansas City up to the top, meaning you can't go that much higher right now because of flight control. So you get rid of that big 674 acres of land that Kansas City owns and controls, owned by the county of Clay, owned by controlled by the Kansas City, Missouri. You take that big thing and you build the largest sports complex, and you build all these roads that come into it. You build all these little overpasses that flood right into the city so people can park downtown. People can tailgate downtown. People can tailgate down in the venue. This same thing happened in Seattle, not exactly that way. I'm from Seattle. It changed the entire south of the Dome District, which is called Georgetown and all these other areas, and it worked. And this is like a wild, harebrained idea, which is not that wild. It's not that harebrained. I'd love to hear what you think. Or is Kansas State gonna steal this team right out of Missouri? Let me know. Peace.